looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad, so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent Talk.
Happy Thursday evening, folks. Welcome to the program. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to my program, of course, the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. And go over to Odyssey Radio Network at ODYSY1.com. And hold on, I am just checking something here. Here, how's this for an auspicious beginning to the show? I don't think the microphone is plugged in. Let's see, testing. Yeah, we're plugged in. I got lights, but it's not plugged into the computer. So you're probably just hearing my sound via the computer. We'll fix that in a second. So welcome to the show. If you're watching now, you're over on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And if you are not a member of this channel, go down and hit the join button. You'll see 3 ways. I held up 4 fingers. 3, that's the kind of day it's been. 3 ways that you can become a member of this program, member of this channel. $2 a month, $5 a month, $15 a month. And it gets you some special perks and stuff like that. Comes automatically out of your card when you sign up, unless you cancel. And, of course, the show itself is always no charge to anybody who wants to come in and listen. So here, give me a second. I'm going to stand up and make sure I'm plugged in here. So hold on. You might still be able to hear me. I thought for certain that this was plugged in, and I noticed it this afternoon that the actual box, the soundboard, was here, but for some reason it was not actually plugged in to the computer. Yep, there it is. See, look. Is that it? Is that it? No, it's going right there. That should be feeding to the computer, but I'm not seeing it. And I'm not sure why. So let me just take one more look at it. And while we're doing that, I hope everybody is headed. There it is. See? There. Boom. Now, the sound may have just changed a little bit. I'm not sure. On your end, if you notice it, you can say so. If you didn't, then that was a lot of monkeying around for nothing. So according to this, we now have the real mic going, and which makes me very happy. Because we didn't have it going last night. I don't like broadcasting with just the system sound on the computer because you're going to get a tinnier sound to it. So there it is. So I want to say hey to everybody who's out there gathering in the chat room. Master Finn, I see you there. Welcome to the show. As always, it's good to see you. And who else we got? We got Elder Barry and Steve Clark, sitting on his porch, smoking a cigar, drinking coffee. Now, that's the life of Riley, I'm telling you. And we've got Robert V. Welcome, Robert V. Glad you made it in tonight. And Brianna Learman. Who's that again? Oh, yeah, my old neighbors. Brianna, good to see you. She says she'll be listening tonight and attempting to talk in the chat. She's got a lot of homework. So I hope you are able to do your homework and engage in the chat. And folks, by the way, as you know, if you have not heard some of this stuff going on over the week, the GoFundMe page for John and Brianna, if you have a moment, because it's not just popping up for me here for some reason, if you have a moment, you can throw your link into the chat room. Guys, everybody who's listening, everybody who's a member of this show, a regular to this channel, go ahead and dig a little bit up and throw a few dollars John and Bree's way. They're trying to fund a new company. They don't need very much to do it, but they need actually so little that getting an investor is really difficult. They always want you to ask for anywhere from $200,000 to $3 million. Well, they don't need a fraction of that. And of course, because it's so small, also the banks are giving them a little runaround. So it might be good if you can go over and throw a little something in there for them. That will help them out. That will help them as they are trying to get this business launched. And let's see, Barbie D, it's good to see you as well. And Field Guy, see that you're here too. And I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you survived all the storms. And Brianna's there. Yeah, I see you, Brianna. It's okay to cry. And Michelle Canham Free, I saw you very early on as we were starting out the show. And so welcome to you as well. And I'm just squinting. I'm in that place right now where my glasses, of course, I can see just fine with them, but I got to tip my head back and look through the readers at the bottom. So, and I hate doing that because you get to look up my nostrils when I do that. And so there's John, Packy 247, John Learman, Lucky Stone, good to see you as well. And it's looking like at the moment, that's who's showing up in the chat room, even though there's a lot more people watching. Folks, if you want to come on in, Matthew Sainsbury, good to see you. Glad you're here. If you want to come in, join the chat room, feel absolutely free to do that. And my lights are in such a way tonight that it's highlighting my white temples. It makes me look like I'm wearing a turban or I'm, one of those There we go. A little issue with our sound and a little technical problem. So sorry about that. This is what happens when you lack a producer who is actually producing, or an engineer who's producing the show for you. So there we go. Boom, we're back. And the good mic should be working now, the real mic, the radio mic, instead of the computer mic. So Sean Stroik, good to see you. Glad you came in. Susie Q, good to see you as well. Doug Stack, good to see you, brother, down there in Louisiana. And it looks like I got somebody else from Louisiana hanging in the wings. We got Field Guy there. Hang on, Field Guy. I'll get right to you. Barbie D, good to see you. Says Big Mac. I don't know what that's all about, but we'll find out in a minute. Hey, John Piper. No sound, no lights, no motor cars. Not a single luxury. Like Robinson Crusoe. We're as primitive as can be. Yeah, we had a mic not working. The mic was unplugged. So I had to go find the right cord out of the 18 cords going into the back of my computer and figure out which one wasn't plugged in right. Field Guy, how you doing tonight? Good to see you, brother.
I am good.
Outstanding. What's going on? What's with your Big Mac thing?
Oh, I bought a Big Mac, Earl. I just never ate it yet.
oh, I see. See, when you come into the studio and you're waiting in the wings, I can see your picture, but that's what you were doing, but I couldn't see. It's hazier.
I did like an hour and a half live stream, and I did not eat my food. So.
Oh, you should eat your food.
I sat there in failure while I was ranting. You know,
Big Macs can't eat them anymore.
I'm not really supposed to eat them, but I do anyway because I figure why not.
Ever since I was down in Louisiana and Texas and driving over to Dallas, and I bit into that Big Mac or quarter pounder with cheese, whatever it was, way back in March or April, and ended up biting into a gum wrapper with gum in it, chewed gum. Not my thing.
Well, so. The one down here doesn't do that because I yell at them.
Yes.
Although they gave me a hash brown it was 6 o'clock at night. So I'm trying to figure out where they got that from.
Did you order fries or something? And they didn't have hash brown?
Yeah, I ordered a bunch of fries. I ordered a 20-piece, and then I ordered the Big Mac, which I forgot. I was sitting here the whole time I was streaming, and I forgot to eat it. I could have got away with it.
Sorry.
But, yeah. I was
so what's going on?
I was bringing up a point about, how you were talking about the God and Harry Potter and such. I came to the conclusion, and I might have said it in your stream or not. Now, I want to say this, and it's just my opinion. I don't want to get anybody upset.
Opinions are welcome.
But I'm starting to think that there is no God, because if there was a God, he wouldn't let bad things happen. And some people tell me, well, you have to have bad things to have good things. Well, I don't really know. And I'm wondering if God and Satan are the same person and split personalities. I don't know. That's just something I've been thinking about lately. And like I said, it's just my opinion. I'm not pushing it towards anybody. It's just something I've been thinking about lately.
Sure.
Maybe I said it in the past. I don't remember. I said it a few minutes ago. I had 2 people listening to my rant. That's about it. But
I've talked about these things with other people, where we've talked about the possible brother, if you will, quote unquote, relationship between Jesus and Lucifer, only because they both have characteristics of the Nephilim, those that had come down and intermingled with the daughters of men and had children by them, the Watchers. I'm sorry, the Elohim, not the Nephilim. And so they're both sons of God. They're both of this caste of the Elohim, if we understand them the way that they're written. And then you have to start asking questions, like with everything else in Scripture, where I enjoy and I love the historicity, the archaeology, the anthropology of backing up stories in the Bible. What about the stories that read like other mythologies, just different versions of mythology? Are you reading mythology? Is there a common source for both of them? Is the biblical source the one true source, while all the other mythologies that look like it are the fake sources or the offshoots? And so those are the questions that we ask. And as far as God, there's no way to prove the existence of God. We talked about this, as you know, a great deal last night. You can't prove it, and God doesn't seem to want to step out of his way to prove it. There's an interesting thing. Why don't you stay on here for a second? I want to see if I can find this. I have a good old friend of mine that I mentioned, Wayne Murray. He's a pastor, and he was a young man who was, when I was in the high school youth group, he was one of the leaders or the assistant youth pastors. And there's something of his that he put up, and I think I shared it yesterday. I'm looking for it right now. Give me just a second. But he was talking about this thing from a very Christian standpoint that I think is worth looking at and worth considering. And so I'm going to do a little search for him because I must not have shared that. Let's see. Here he is, Wayne Murray. And every day or so, he puts up something that has to do with Christianity. Here it is. Now, folks, listen to this, and field guy, listen to this and see what you think. This is from a very Christian perspective, but this is what Wayne said when he had to write about this, when he wrote about this yesterday. And his little blog that he puts up almost every day is called Pastor's Pen. And Wayne, I would consider to be an intellectual, a Christian intellectual. And he entitled this one, The Windows of Heaven. Now, all of you listen to this and see what you think. There's a verse in Malachi, that's one of the minor prophets in the Old Testament. There's a verse in Malachi that describes God as standing at the window of heaven with arms loaded with gifts, mercy, forgiveness, compassion, provision, and ready to rain them upon us. He does not, however, chase us all over the planet, trying to thrust them upon us. We have to come to him, to where the window is. And when we do, the window is flung open and these blessings overwhelm us. I thought of that when someone shared an incident with his daughter in college. He got a notice from the bank that his daughter's account was overdrawn, which is a fairly pricey mistake these days. His dilemma? Send her an angry letter? Might help her later, but it won't satisfy the bank now. Phone and tell her to make a deposit? Might as well tell a fish to fly. Her liquidity is zero. Transfer the money from his account to hers? Seemed to be the best option. After all, he had enough. He had enough. He could replenish her account and pay the overdraft fee as well. Since she calls him dad, he did what dads do. He covered his daughter's mistake. When he told her she was overdrawn, she said she was sorry, which was noble, but she was still broke and had no way to solve the problem. There was only one option. Dad, could you... He interrupts. Honey, he interrupted. I already have. He met her need before she knew she had one. Long before you realized that you needed grace, God, the Supreme Father, did the same. He made an ample deposit. Before you knew you needed a savior, you had one. And when you ask him for mercy, he replies, "Dear child, I've already given it." Perhaps it's time for you to humble yourself and come stand under the window. Call his name and see what happens. Now, that's from my friend, Pastor Wayne Murray. Now, it takes a lot of faith to understand these things. So, Bryant, I see you out there in the wings. Hang on, brother, and I'll be right with you. I'll bring you in. So, here's the big question. Is God actually there to fulfill? Why? And I understand your question, field guy. Your question was, does God exist? Why do so many bad things happen if God is there? And I think sometimes that if we had a lot of theological answers for this. The way I kind of mead this out in my brain now is that God, in a sense, has put things in motion. And God is there to be the God of the impossible, not the God of the lucky rabbit's foot. And so bad things happen sometimes to people. Maybe Bryant's got something he wants to add to this. Let me bring you in, Bryant. Let's see. There you go. Oops. Where'd you go?
That was a troll.
No, I see him. He's still here.
Thanks for fucking robbing me.
There you are.
Thanks for
I didn't drop you. Brian. I can't see you.
Hard-earned fucking money.
It's a troll.
That's a troll. Sorry, Brian. I think he's the one that cut me off because he popped up and then he was gone. So there you go, folks. Sorry for that little comedic interlude. So Matthew says, I sometimes wonder since I lost my dad that that thought makes me know he's far away. So, yeah, sorry, Teresa and everybody else. That was somebody apparently having fun with our channel. So I thought he was going to interject and add something to the conversation. I brought him up. I saw him come up, and then he disappeared right away. So there he is again.
Yeah,
he tried again and disappeared. So, Bryant, if you're out there listening, you really want to contribute something, call back. I'll put you on. We'll talk. So, anyway, I don't know how to answer those questions satisfactorily anymore, Field Guy, because there was a day when I could have answered those questions in full faith. And now there's a time where I have to, as I start to say things, I find that I have to back off from that a bit. Now I've got a Doug West calling in. It says devices not connected. Now there's Doug West again. Doug West, how you doing? If you can see me and hear me from the wings out there, give me a wave, and I'll bring you in because I can see you. If you want to add to the conversation here, let's add you in. There's Doug West.
Basically,
how you doing, Doug West?
My messages.
No, I'm not seeing you.
Must
be the same kind of deal. I bring him in, and there we go. There's Doug West. How's it going, Doug West? Got anything to add? If not, I'll take you down. What's up, brother? You want to contribute? Nope, I guess not. Yeah, we got some trolls tonight. That's okay. That's all right. I don't mind trolls as long as they're manageable. So, Teresa says, I think God is whoever and whatever each of us creates. Teresa, I understand that thinking, and Field Guy, you probably do too. My thing, it's like the song I had quoted a while back for something is that that talks about how sometimes we want to create God to be what we want him to be, as opposed to who God really is. But then that begs the question, is God an individual personality while still being the originator or the creator of the universe or the very God that permeates everything? Is this who God is? Is God a personality? Or is God a great nebulous, the Logos, they used to call him in ancient Greece? Is this who God is? What did she say here? Faith in the unseen, but that which is felt in the heart. I get that. I understand that. Brianna, are you taking off? I just said somebody saw Barbie D say goodbye to you. Take care, she said. So, Brianna, if you're heading out, nice to see you here. All right, time to get back to homework. Need to find children's book about health and do a summary on it. Well, you have good luck with that. So now we've got, hey, I'm stressed. I can see you out there in the wings. Are you actually there to contribute? If you are, give me a wave and I'll bring you into the show. If not, I'll just chalk you up with the other guys who are, I'm getting a plethora of trolls tonight. So if you'd like to contribute, you can go ahead and contribute. He's got 2 windows out here in the wings, which every one of them have had, Field Guy. One of them
Same
says,
guy.
I'm stressed and devices not connected. And the other one is his picture. So
Same one. Guarantee it is.
probably. He's got a baseball bat and swinging it in the air. Folks, you should see this. This is great stuff. So I'm stressed. If you would like to speak and contribute, why don't you go ahead and type something out in the chat room, or give me a wave on camera, and I'll bring you in and you can talk. Otherwise, we'll just let you go and sit out there in the wings. So Brianna still be listening. Good thing, Brianna. And so Field Guy, I wish you could see this, or can you? I don't think you can.
No,
see
I can't see it.
here.
I can just see his messages in the back of in the backstage. I can see those.
Okay.
I can't see. Only you can see that.
So I'm stressed. Maybe you need to listen to some of the stuff we're talking about tonight. If you want to contribute, if you've got some questions, let me know, and we'll see what we can do for you. Maybe nothing. Maybe you just want to be out there to have fun. I don't know. So let me know. You got something you want to contribute, and we'll bring you in.
They won't type in the chat, because if they type in the chat, then your mods can ban them. That's why they're not going to type in the chat. That's how trolls
I
operate.
could ban him right here if I wanted to. Ban from the studio. There,
You
boom.
can do that. You can do that, yeah, but they'll just keep coming under different names in your chat, and if they don't type, you can't do nothing about it. That's how they operate.
That's right.
So,
Morgan Snow says the flu turned out to be COVID, and it's giving me a hard time. Love you all and stay safe. Well, we hope you're doing okay out there, Morgan. We're thinking about you. I won't ever belittle COVID. I do know that when I had it and Rainey had it and all our kids had it, save for one, it treated us like a overblown sinus cold or sinus headache. And a couple of days later, I lost my sense of taste and felt like I got hit by a truck and wanted to sleep for 2-3 days. And then it gradually got better and it went away. And I had a good friend of mine. She and her husband and adult son had gotten COVID a couple of weeks ago. And she said, it's all starting to pass now. And we're all starting to feel better. Good thing we had the vaccination, or it might have been much worse. And I said, I don't want to make this a political type of post. I said, but we didn't have the vaccination either. And it lasted about 10 days to 2 weeks for us too. And it wasn't overtly severe. But I also know people, I think people right here in this chat room who had a bad case of COVID, and it hit them rather hard. So I don't know if it's the virus itself or if it's the body's reaction to it. Like right now, we moved, and I made some mention of this the other day, that we didn't even notice this until we were here and moved in, that the water tower, the big old country town water tower that sits over there, it's got a bunch of cell towers on top of it. And Rainey was very worried about that right away, because she'd read all this stuff about how it can cause cancer in certain people, certain distances away, and so on. This thing is probably the distance of about a block and a half, a city block and a half from us. Sits over the trees out there.
I'd seen that in your post. I mean, in your video. I watched your Sunday stream yesterday.
Ah, very nice.
Because I didn't have power Sunday, so I couldn't watch it at the time.
And I did notice some of the broadcasts, when I broadcast from the phone, I wasn't able to set them to show up on my main page the way I normally do. So it was buried on there. But so right now, Rainey was gone for a couple of hours, and she came back feeling pretty good. But now that she's back, she starts to get this shaky feeling, not shaky in the vibrating, and doesn't sleep well, and so on. So she's pretty convinced it has to do with the tower that's right near us.
That does.
I don't know.
You get just as much radiation from a tower than you do from a microwave.
Now, that's what I've heard. But I would like to know for sure. I got to find some sources. If anybody has good source material out on that, without sending scare posts to my wife, I would love to see the information you have. And I know Sarah Soderlin has a lot of information on those.
I've never seen a cell tower on top of a water tower before. That's a new one.
Yeah, it's up there. It's up there. It's got all those upright. From here, all I can see, it looks like big upright white things, and you see the metal girders behind them.
I mean, they got those conspiracies about 5G frying your brain.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is. I personally don't think there's anything to worry about. Now, if it was like 30 yards away, then yeah, okay. But if it's a block and a half,
I should ask Alex Jones. So that's what Doug said. Ask Alex Jones.
Oh.
Is it for sure a cell tower, though? I don't know. I don't even know exactly what it is. Rainey was at a Cub Scout parent meeting tonight, and somebody was talking about it and saying, yeah, they heard that there was one other person that had some difficulties because of the towers, and I don't even know for sure. So I've said a couple of days ago I was going to do it. I'm going to call the village office and find out what's up with that.
Usually they put cell towers on buildings.
That's what I thought.
On top of buildings, because I have 2 water towers near me, and they don't have cell towers.
Well, it's like the water towers here are the tallest things in the area. You're talking basically just out of the Stone Age, not that, just out of the farm community type of a town here.
I mean, they can build one if they can build a TV transmitter. They can put it on top of there.
Sure.
Usually they have those in the middle of nowhere.
So microwave glass actually has a Faraday cage built. It stops the radiation from being emitted. Is that grid inside the glass? It's that grid inside the glass, says Matt Finn.
Microwaves leak electricity also, so I don't know.
So what else we got going on? I see Barbie D says, oh, Lord, Sean S. What did you do, Sean S? Barbie D is ignoring me. Michelle Cannon-Free. Oh, I see. Okay. It's hard to ignore anybody in the chat room, frankly. So I would for sure call, because when we lived there, I do not believe myself. And my mom never had issues, or our neighbors, when we lived there. I don't think I'm having issues. As far as I know, at least not temporal ones. If there's anything to it, you supposedly can come down with cancer from these things too. I just don't know. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know what's the truth about it. Rainey feels stuff. And so, yeah, Matt Finn, I believe you about the microwaves. The mesh that's in there. I know that's in there.
I don't think there's an answer about that either. I don't
either.
It's like, it's what do you go with? Okay, it is doing radiation. Can you, I mean, nobody really knows.
Sure. See, now we got Kwame Brown is now in the wings out here. Kwame, if you can hear me.
That's a basketball player. That's definitely a troll.
Wave at me if you can see me. I see you out there. You've got, just like every troll that came in tonight, there's 2 windows that pop up. It's the same
person.
One that says devices not connected, and the other one has his picture going. Now, it's not the same person in both of them, but
no, but it's I guarantee you it's the same person doing it.
Here, folks.
That's how
put
they
on your steel show. Oh, now he disconnected. So there you go.
Yep.
So
see, if you ignore them, they go away. They just want attention.
Well, he was only there for about 10 seconds. So Brianna says we lived 4 houses down. That's right. John and Bree lived 4 houses down in the same neighborhood where we live now before we even knew him. So there you go. You guys would have been really, proximity wise, the same distance from that tower that we are. How's that for showing the love? says Teresa. I don't know what I missed. So anyway, Field Guy, I'm going to let you go. We're going to dig into some things a little bit here. It's 9:38 already. I wasted some time trying to plug in my mic back in.
Hopefully the trolls disappear from the stream because we don't need them. We don't want them.
That's right.
So
all right. So you mods, keep an eye out. And Field Guy, thanks for being here, brother.
No problem. I'll be here.
Talk to you soon. All right, folks. We're back with just me. And it was just your mom and you, Brianna. Okay, I thought it was you and John. So that was a few years ago then. So all of this talk and Field Guy brings up some valid points and feelings that people feel about God. Is God really there? Would God actually be there and allow bad things to happen? What is the real answer to that? We can have philosophical answers to that as to why we think answer the question, what does bad things happen to good people? Why doesn't God step in and stop disease and pestilence and war? Is the curse of man in the Bible, is that something that mankind used to explain certain things about the way the earth works? So these are all questions that people ask. And of course, coming into that mix is the whole issue of Jesus Christ. Is this God's Son that he sent? Is he the one that is here, the kinsman redeemer, the Messiah, to make things right? And more theological than just making things right on a humanitarian level, as we used to say in seminary, what good does it do to send somebody food when they're starving if they would die and go to hell? So that was our motivation. Not social gospel, but preaching the gospel. Social gospel could come hand in hand. John Piper says God is not real. God's outside of what we perceive in our reality. That's true. So you're saying he's a physical non-reality, John? Or are you saying he's not real because he exists outside of what we accept as being real? I can see this desk. I can see a car go by. I can see the water tower out back, the blue sky. Those things are real because I have a physical relationship with them, if you will. I see them. I experience them. God, I don't see and feel and experience unless it's my emotions or my psychological side that kicks in my emotions about what I believe about God. Now, I am no atheist. I am an agnostic. Just simply meaning I don't have the knowledge. I don't know the answers, and I would like to have them. And in seeking the answers, is just putting your faith in something that you don't know is sure the right thing to do. It's almost like rolling the dice, isn't it? It's like saying, well, I'm going to go sit in this red velvet seat in this theater and look at it from my perspective, the play that's going on. Matthew Sainsbury says they shall beat their swords into plowshares, their spears into prodding hooks. Nation shall not lift sword against nation, according to Isaiah. That's true, but that doesn't really answer that question. But that is a verse in Isaiah. You're right. Brianna says, back when they were first built in 2005, and we lived across the train tracks closer to the water tower, and also on Sarah Lane a little further down from there and close to the schools. Okay. Yeah. So our senses, says John Piper, are limited by our biology. That's very true. So how do you escape that, John? How do you get to know who God is? Or accept whether or not he's real? God is known by our unconscious minds, which are made up in our fleshed brains. Yeah, that's very true. I get that point. Barbie D says, well, Scotty, I put my faith in God with what I've been through. But that's just my thinking. I understand that, Barbie D, and I don't fault you. I don't question that, and I don't want you to think or feel any differently than you do. What I express here on this show are my questions and my examinations and my looking into it. I once had a very strong faith in the things that I couldn't see, the things I had no evidence for. But that's also something that, to me, on a more corporate church level or a spiritual level, has turned into those things that we have to create a faith in something. Not because we have any truth about it or any evidence of it. Faith is the evidence of things not seen, the proof of things hoped for. And that's it. It's a hope. We hope that the thing we put faith in is real. Whereas John in the Bible writes in one of the epistles, these things are written that you may know what you believe. Well, I've read through those and studied them and preached them and taught them for years. And I still don't know that those are the facts. Because they read like other religions' spiritual material, theological material. So that's where we can run into this. Hey, Sean Stroik, good to see you, brother. So it's a good point, though, Barbie, and I don't fault anyone for that. Teresa says the answers for me are inside of me, and creator source energy is part of me, and I'm part of it. Great spirit of or God, whatever we choose to label it. I get that. I'm a little afraid of what comes out of me, however, because I write a pretty good story with my imagination. Who knows if I'm not just creating God out of whole cloth? That's the big part. I know Moses did a lot of that in writing the Pentateuch. Muhammad did a lot of that in creating Islam. We create these things out of whole cloth. John Piper says our own little universe is known to have more matter that hadn't been able to be measured yet. Nearly 80%. Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy. You listen to Matthew 24, and it metaphorically sounds pretty similar to the current. Just saying. I'll have to look at that, Matt. Matt Finn. So, we talked a little bit about these four historians last night. Flavius Josephus, Tacitus, Suetonius. Who was the other one? Josephus, Tacitus, Suetonius, and the other guy. Why am I not thinking of who they are? For some reason. I'm not hitting it. But we talked about Josephus and his Antiquities of the Jews, and how what he mentioned about Christ as being a first century historian, how he apparently has a paragraph about Jesus, but how that paragraph, when you look at it textually, the way archaeologists and anthropologists look at written material in archaeology, it doesn't fit the context surrounding it. So this has been a problem in looking at some of his work. If almost everything outside Josephus points in a different direction to the essential fiction of the gospel picture, and its central figure, how can Josephus be made to bear on his shoulders through two passages whose reliability has thus remained unsettled, the counterweight to all of this other negative evidence? It's a good question. After we finished Josephus, we kind of left off there last night, but then you've got the Annals of Roman History and Senator Tacitus. Tacitus is generally considered a reliable historian, which has been used to give this passage added weight. This is what Tacitus wrote. Nero fastened the guilt of starting the blaze and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians or Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius, 14 to 37 AD, at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilatus, and a most mischievous superstition. Thus checked for the moment, again, broke out not only in Judea, the first source of the evil, but even in Rome, where all things hideous and shameful from every part of the world find their center and become popular. That's what Tacitus wrote. Now, first of all, Tacitus wasn't infallible. In referring to earlier references, Tacitus confirms that Moses led a colony of lepers, the Jews, out of Israel, thus giving the rumor that the Jewish people were originally a leper colony and a pseudo-historical foundation. Osman reflects Tacitus's authority as this historian who's imparted the dignity of authentic historical research to this product of imagination, projection, distorted memory. Even so, a strong case can also be made against the authenticity of this passage. Larner and Doan pointed out that it was discovered only in the 15th century, and this is confirmed by the Catholic Encyclopedia, and that there was no vestige nor trace of its existence in the writings of Tacitus anywhere in the world before the 15th century. That's 1,400 years later than the time of Jesus, and 1,300 years later than Tacitus lived. And so the original manuscript containing the Annals of Tacitus were discovered in the 14th century. Their existence can't be traced back further than that time. And as it was an age of imposture, some persons were disposed to believe that not only portions of the Annals, but the whole work was forged at that time. Mr. J.W. Ross, in an elaborate work published in London some years ago, contended that the Annals were forged by Poggio Bracciolini and Bracciolini, could be Bracciolini, and their professed discoverer. And at the time of Bracciolini, the temptation was great to palm off literary forgeries, especially in the chief writers of antiquity, on account of the popes in their efforts to revive learning, giving money, rewards, and indulgences to those who should procure copies of original manuscripts of any of the ancient Greek or Roman authors. So manuscripts turned up as if by magic in every direction from these libraries or monasteries. They were obscure as well as famous, and the most out-of-the-way places, the bottom of exhausted wells, besmeared by snails, as the history of Vallius Paterculus, or from the garrets, where they'd been contending with cobwebs and dust, as the poems of Catullus. So, nevertheless, all of these passages, and the passage of Tacitus, is generally accepted as authentic by modern researchers. At the same time, it's been noted that it can offer no information regarding the historical Jesus, since Christ is not a name, it's a title, and could have referred to any number of individuals. There's a guy that John Ward and I interviewed that said the real Jesus is a guy named Judas of Galilee. And so it was a very not Judas Iscariot, Judas of Galilee. And so it's interesting stuff that these researchers can come up with. Another claim is that Tacitus is only repeating Christians' own perception of their history. Moreover, it's unclear whether the original Christians referred to Jesus' followers at all. So Pliny the Younger wrote Pliny's the other guy, the guy that I was messing his name up in my head. Pliny the Younger wrote to Emperor Trajan in 112 AD about certain Christians who refused to worship the emperor. And this letter has also been used to justify the historical Jesus, although it refers only to the existence of Christians. The passage from Pliny the Elder goes like this: "Those who denied that they were or had been Christians when they invoked the gods in words dictated by me, offered prayer with incense and wine to your image, which I had ordered to be brought for this purpose, together with statues of the gods, and moreover cursed Christ, none of which those who are really Christians, it is said, can be forced to do. These I thought should be discharged. Others named by the informer declared that they were Christians, but then deemed it, asserting that they had been but had ceased to be some 3 years before. Others many years, some as much as 25 years. They all worshipped your image of Caesar and the statues of the gods and cursed Christ." That's Pliny's words. Finally, Gaius Suetonius, Tranquillus, a secretary and historian to Emperor Hadrian, wrote the following in his Life of Claudius: "As the Jews were making constant disturbances at the instigation of Chrestus, Chrestus, he, Claudius, expelled them from Rome." And this passage is referring to Jesus Christ assumes the following. 1, the Chrestus causing disturbances in Rome refers to a Christ who actually resided some years earlier in Palestine. 2, it assumes the information is not secondhand via Christian sources. 3, the presence of Christians in Rome by 49 AD implies the existence of an actual Christ rather than a developing legend. And 4, Chrestus means Christ rather than its translation, useful one. So these are the assumptions that are being made. Now, Suetonius later mentioned that because of the great fire in Rome of 64 AD, punishment by Nero was inflicted on the Christians, a class of men given to a new and harmful superstition. That's in the Life of the Caesars by Suetonius. Now, putting aside the question of whether all of these passages are authentic or forgeries, in fact, they are not strong witnesses for the historical Jesus in any form. They were all written after the life and times of Jesus by non-followers who had only secondhand anecdotal evidence about him. Nobody who wrote these passages, any of these 4 historians that are supposed to be the cornerstones of our historic mentions of Jesus from almost his day, none of them had firsthand information. None of them were actually claiming that Jesus was God. All they were saying was they mentioned his followers, and they mentioned things about this was reported to have happened in Judea. They don't mention any of the miraculous deeds or the teachings of the Bible. And if anything, they only support the idea that there were, at that time, some Christians who believed in an historical Jesus. A point which I really have no intention of challenging. I'm sure they did. And as Kuhn pointed out in his quote we read last night, these meager historical sources are incongruous to the claim that the life of Jesus Christ was one of the best attested events in history. Incongruent. So what do you do with all of that? So is Leslie in the room? I see Corin Browning is here. Good to see you, Corey. And I thought I saw somebody. There's Leslie Holker. Good to see you, Leslie. It's been a long time since I've seen you. Off and on. So some scholars have noted with, I think, a bit of surprise that there are actually no contemporary accounts of Jesus of any kind, unless you include the Gospels, which, when we were talking about the Gospels, 3 of the Gospels seem to be based off of one of the Gospels, which seems to be based off of a book that nobody can find. So when used against the idea of a historical Jesus, this is sometimes referred to as the argument from silence. Kersey Graves, for example, writing in 1875, commented strongly on the lack of historical testimony. He said this. He said, "The fact that no history, sacred or profane, that not one of the 300 histories of that age makes the slightest allusion to Christ, or any of the miraculous incidents engrafted into his life, certainly proves with a cogency that no logic can overthrow, no sophistry can contradict, and no honest skepticism can resist that there never was such a miraculously endowed being as his many Orthodox disciples claim him to have been. The fact that Christ finds no place in the history of the era in which he lived, that not one event of his life is ever recorded by anybody but his own interested and prejudiced biographers, settles the conclusion, beyond cavil or criticism, that the godlike achievements ascribed to him are naught but fable or fiction. And it not only proves that he was not miraculously endowed, but proves he was not even naturally endowed to such an extraordinary degree as to make him an object of general attention." That's what Kersey Graves said in 1875. When you think of that, how does that hit you? So defenders of Christianity respond to this argument by claiming that Jesus was a small-time preacher living in the backwaters of the Roman Empire, and as such shouldn't be expected to have received much attention anyway. However, in the Gospels, his death and resurrection were witnessed and believed in by both Roman and Jewish officials. Remember the centurion, "Surely this is the Son of God." Roman and Jewish officials believed. The word would have been sure to spread very quickly. Now, as Mead emphasized in 1903, it has always been an unfailing source of astonishment to the historical investigator of Christian beginnings that there is not a single word from the pen of any pagan writer of the first century out of our era which can in any fashion be referred to the marvelous story recounted by the gospel writers. The very existence of Jesus seems unknown. So, of course, the argument from silence can't prove that Jesus didn't exist at all, nor can questioning the authenticity of the passages cited above. For the purposes of the present study, however, the documents I've referred to and read to you from these 4 historical men within a century of the time of Christ are refuted as proofs for the historical Jesus. The reason for this conclusion has nothing to do with the documents themselves, but is simply based on the perception that controversy and argumentation surrounding these documents continues and appears irresolvable. For obvious reasons, a document used as evidence to give testimony about an individual should be a reliable and trusted source of information. Now, if experts cannot agree on the validity of the document, and if they argue for centuries about whether or not it's genuine, a forgery, or a well-intentioned interpolation, and if in general there's no consensus, then the document should not be used as valid evidence, especially in a research investigation. It's impugned, impeachable proof, so to speak, or evidence. However, that's not to say that these passages couldn't be used as a strong supporting or secondary evidence. but only in the absence of other evidence pointing at a different solution, or after an irrefutable, or at least much more secure, primary source of testimony was first established. This is the assertion that most Christians can agree with, maintaining that the most reliable testimony of the life of Jesus Christ can be found in the Bible. On his website, Mark Roberts, author of Not a Relation, is the author of Jesus Revealed, quickly dismisses the main Jewish and Roman sources used to support the historical Jesus, and even makes the early Christian writings dispensable. In the end, however, he finds in the Bible plenty of evidence for the historical Jesus. He says, if all we had were the second century Christian writings, we'd have a hard time sorting out what Jesus really did and said. The gulf between orthodox and heterodox treatments of Jesus was wide and growing, and it was growing wider in this century. As Gnostics claimed Jesus is their heavenly redeemer, while Orthodox Christians insisted that his ministry included far more revelation. At its core, they argued, it had to do with his death and his resurrection, something the Gnostics rejected, preferring a revealer who didn't really suffer. But I'm glad to say we don't have only the second century writings. In fact, we have access to texts from the earliest days of the Christian faith, writings which are collected in the New Testament. But then we have to ask, is the Bible really historically accurate? Who wrote the New Testament, folks? And for what purpose was it written? Remember, Paul wrote 2/3 of it. Single guy. What can we learn about Jesus from the gospel stories? And these are questions that we're going to explore in the next section about the Old Testament. Now, you and I, listeners here, and me, we have looked at a lot of this stuff over the months and the years. Corn Browning, yeah, he did pretty much 2/3 in the New Testament. I'm throwing that figure out. When you look at all the epistles Paul wrote versus the four Gospels, Book of Revelation, John, Peter, Timothy, maybe it's half. I've said Paul wrote 2/3. Maybe Peter was a Peterphile. Maybe he was, Corin. Not the same way you're thinking. Well, there are many historical locations that do match Scripture, says Matt Finn. Yes, I agree with that. Matt Finn, as I said even earlier in this program, tonight, I said the historicity of the Bible is pretty spot on as far as dates and locations and names and things like that. So when you look at that, you say, wouldn't that lend some credence to the gospel writers of the life of Jesus? Because after all, the Gospels are historical documents as much as they are faith documents or theological documents. So we do have a lot of writing about Jesus at the time. The only thing that scholars and academics who are studying the historical Jesus are concerned about is when you only have people from within the faith who have a solid document about the life of Jesus in any detail, it lends the outsider to look at it and say, well, that's from within the faith. Of course they're going to write that. But is it manufactured? That's the big question. So I've been getting hung up on the Old Testament, says Corin Browning. We've studied a lot of Old Testament here too. We talk about Moses, talk about all of those kinds of things. The Nephilim, the creation stories, things like that. So, Mike Yehudi, good to see you, brother. We're almost done. but I'm glad you made it in. Mike Yehudi says, here's how I look at things as a Catholic. Here's how I look as things a Catholic, things that openly challenge my faith only serve to make me do my own research to strengthen my faith. Damn straight, Mike Yehudi. Why do you think I do these studies? I want to know things. I want to find, if I just look at things that support the way I want to believe, that's all I'm doing. I'm looking for things that support what I want to believe, what I want to make God out to be, or who I want him to be, who I want Jesus to be. Give me something that challenges what I believe and let me think through it. Let me work my way through that material and see where I end up. Corin, I respect people's beliefs too. I don't want anybody who believes to be offended by these shows. I want you to hopefully learn something from these shows and either come out asking more questions or strengthening your own faith. Oh, sorry, Brianna. I thought that was something else you were saying there. So, Steph is here tonight. Good to see you. Field, I was late in here tonight, she says, but you're later. There you go. I think he was here at the beginning, Steph. He was actually on the show for a little bit at the beginning. So I think the old adage, says Matt Finn, history repeats is actually way more related to the Bible's accounts metaphorically than we ever thought. I think you're right, brother. I think you're absolutely right. Hence the title of the book that I was quoting at the beginning of this whole series, Jesus Potter, Harry Christ, which we're getting into. This is all part of the meat that builds that argument that these two are literary characters that reflect Harry Potter is a Christ type in literary history. Sean says, skip class, Barbie D. Have some fun. Barbie D, you got a class coming up? Scott Allen was late. He was in the movie theater. What'd you see tonight, Scott Allen? I love the movie theater. I've always loved the big picture and the big sound. People are always like, you can rent that at home. And people are like, this is the new normal. We can rent movies at home now. It's like, I know. We've always been able to rent movies at home in one form or another. Well, at least since the 70s. I like the big picture and the big sound. I love the feel of the big movie screen, the big theater. So, Leslie Holker says, being born and raised Catholic, I have greater issues with their love for money over faith and community. Yeah, there's that. I get that. Corin says, it doesn't necessarily seem logical to me, but the romanticism of the rituals, communion, masses, singing, etc., draws me in from a sensual standpoint. Brother, I agree with you. I made some mention of that a while back. I was talking about how my Ukrainian stepfather had wanted all of us kids, and I was 5 at the time, baptized into the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is basically Eastern Orthodox. And I remember coming in, it was dark outside already, and I was wearing a little suit and carrying something, some little silver goblet or carafe of some kind. Don't know what it was for, but I was baptized in the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, and all I remember is that it was dark and there was candles lit and probably small lights somewhere. It was very serene, and there was, I think, music of some kind was playing. The statuary with the candlelight flickering on it. I remember reds and the colors of tapestry and things like that. And it seemed in my memory as a 5-year-old to be a very holy place. And you are absolutely right, Corin. I've experienced that same thing. The sensual standpoint of it all would draw me in at times. I thought, maybe this is where I need to be. I've thought over the years, time and again, because I'm totally drawn in by that sense of liturgical awe that seemed to be dispensed during these ceremonies. So, what kind of trouble and havoc is Brianna wreaking over there? So, Matt Finn says, I believe he lived. Jesus did miraculous things and was crucified, ushering in a new blood covenant for humanity. I believe it was all done with the garden tomb complex and mostly followers of the Gospels. And Matt, I can't say I don't believe that, and I don't blame anybody for believing that. I just question things. Corin said, it almost feels reminiscent of past lives. I hear that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And so there we go, folks. That's what we've got for tonight. Dougie 2 West has appeared over in the wings here to come on and talk. But Dougie, we've had a lot of not spammers, a lot of trolls attempting to just come on the show tonight. They all start the same way with one window that says devices are not connected, and then the same name coming up in another window. If you're there and you want to add something to the show, give me a wave of your hand and I'll bring you in. I see you're talking over there, but you're not being broadcast. So if you want to come on the show, just let me know. And or say something over in the chat room, we'll bring you in. John says, Scott, you would have made a good Jesuit. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, brother. So, and we'll leave that at that. Now we got Bryant is back over there in the wings too. Hey, Bryant, how you doing? You waving at me? You want to come on? Bryant, what have you got to say tonight?
What's up, man? How you doing?
How you doing?
You're the
Good
best.
to have you here.
You're the best.
Right on. What's going on?
Nothing, man. You know, I'm rooting for the Eagles, man. You know the Eagles, Philadelphia?
I certainly do.
Yeah, man. I root for the Eagles, man. I'm so fucking ugly, but yeah, you see my profile, right? Oh,
yeah, I'm a Vikings fan. I'm from Minneapolis, and so I've always been a Vikings fan. I now live across the river in Wisconsin, so I'm a stranger.
I remember when a couple years ago. I think a year ago.
Yeah.
Hey, and, you know what I did when that happened?
What'd you do?
I wiped my ass with an Eagles rug and just threw it out because my team is trash, man.
You know, there are some people who are avid fans like that. For me, I'm just a stranger in a strange land. I don't fly a Packers flag, and I don't fly a Vikings flag anymore. But that's the team. I grew up during the era of Fran Tarkenton.
Oh, you know Dougie, right?
What's that?
You know Dougie? That's my friend, man. Can you let him on?
I'm not sure. I tried to get him on, and he wouldn't, and he disappeared. So.
His arm broken a little bit. He can't raise it.
Oh, that sucks.
Is if he can join?
Well, we're just about to end the show for the night. If you want to try to come back tomorrow night, maybe we'll see if we can.
Can I tell you one more thing? Hey,
sure.
Keep doing what you're doing. Fat bastard.
Right, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
That is one. See, now I just told somebody the other day to kiss my big fat white American ass. Now they can kiss your big fat black American ass. How about that? Good job.
I'm a troll. Let's go.
All right, troll. There you go, folks. That was it. There you go. You had a troll. And you got to see a little naked butt. How about that? So, everybody, I want to thank you for being here tonight. Tomorrow night, see, I tried to be fair. I kind of knew it was trolling coming, but I wanted to see how far he was going to go. So, there you go. What does Brianna say? Yes. Ha 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 ha. Do you like bare butts, Brianna? Is that what you're referring to? So, John Piper, good night to you. America the Great, right? That's right, Matt Finn. Takes all strokes, I guess, so to speak. Trolling just might save this nation. Who knows? Says Corin Browning. You might be right about that, too. Brianna likes big butts and she cannot lie. Well, there you go. And folks, on that note, let me show you my butt. No, I'm kidding. I kid you. There's nothing amazingly cool and spectacular about my white butt. So, all right, all you guys, I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate the fact that you would give me your time and come on into this show. And we even got you a little entertainment on the side with the troll. So I hope you enjoyed that. So you folks, you all have a good night. And you know what? Live long and prosper.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Rainey Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hire my dad so he can take me to Disneyland.
You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.